Now, this happened many years ago when I was already coaching others how to overcome their social anxiety. And it made me worry, shit, what if my anxiety is back? I'm this fraud of a coach and I'll be living with this problem for the rest of my life. So it was very scary. Here's what happened. So this was around the time that the first co-working space had opened up where I was living, and I had already overcome pretty much most of my social anxiety. There were certain social situations in which I still felt a bit anxious, but it wasn't, anything profound. So I thought I'm free of it, right? And I had set up like a meetup group, and I had organized to meet up with people, and that went fine. And I could be myself in social situations, and so things were good. I'm like, this is good. I'm in a good place. Then what happened was some of the people that I had that meetup group with, who came to my meetup group, they brought over this other guy, this Australian guy, and he was very confident and very loud and very outgoing and very like macho. And for whatever reason, that really triggered me. Just being around that guy made me feel anxious. And since that new co-working space was open, we were all gonna go there. But as soon as I came closer to the co-working space, I got more and more anxious, like 10 out of, maybe not a 10, like 8, 9 out of 10 anxiety. Like the kind in which you cannot speak and properly communicate. So I was like, I have to get out of here. Anyway, I couldn't just escape. So I just sat there, worked for an hour, or pretended to work rather, because my mind was racing, worrying about that they were going to try to have a conversation with me, or that they were going to question me about why I was going to go and that I wouldn't be able to have an answer, and like all of these things racing in my mind. And eventually I just pretended that I was not feeling well, which was true, but I wasn't sick. I was just like super anxious. And I'm like, I don't feel well, I'm gonna go. I'm like, are you okay? Yeah, I'm gonna go. Just took off. Now, then I was very worried. I'm like, shit, is it back? Like, what's going on? And am I ever gonna overcome this? And like, very, very scared, and like feeling dark and thinking about my future, that like it's not gonna go away, and maybe all the progress that I've made doesn't count, or maybe it was a fluke, and blah blah blah, and like terrible, like feeling really really bad. Now, switching to the more positive side, actually what was going on was I simply encountered a couple of triggers that I hadn't yet addressed. One was the guy. So the guy, he reminded me of a childhood friend from my teenage years, who was a bit of a bully and a bit domineering. And so being around this guy reminded my brain of being around my domineering childhood friend, and that made me feel anxious. So that perception of threat was simply not dealt with. That was one. Then, while my blushing had also been a problem since I was 12, and I had worked on that, and that had gotten significantly less, there were certain situations that I was avoiding because I'm like, I'm afraid I might blush there. So I don't want to go there. I'm just going to not go there yet, is what I would tell myself. But now being in this co-working space, it's a locked up space. You're all you're all sitting around a desk, and like, if you become the center of attention, like everyone is kind of listening in. So I'm like, what if I'm gonna blush here and everyone's gonna see it? It's gonna ruin my reputation and blah blah blah. And so that threat now was there on top of it as well. And I was worried about all of the consequences of this happening. So I'm like, oh, I can't be around this guy, and can't go to the co-working space, and what if they find out, and blah blah blah. Plus, I'm already coaching people with social anxiety, and the friends that I had made from the meetup group that I had set up, I had already told them that. So I'm like, then I'm a fraud. Then I still have this problem, but I'm trying to help other people overcome it. No, this is a disaster. So, torture in my mind, believe it, very, very bad. Um, in the end, um, it was nothing more than, okay, you know what? I need to work through this. And I got help from my coach who helped shed the light and gave me perspective. Back in the day, this is a long time ago, I didn't have as much psychological and trauma based understanding as these days, but she did. So she helped coach me through it, gave me the frame to understand what was going on. And so together we worked through it, and I did a bunch of my own tapping. And I ended up feeling fine around the guy, and I ended up feeling calm in co-working spaces, and that simply has been the case ever since. And since then, and this is maybe 13 years ago or something, um, yeah, 13, 14 years ago, I guess, um, there have been other situations in which I got triggered again. But the frequency of how often I got triggered kept reducing, because every time a trigger would come up, I would simply go, oh, another perception of threat that my nervous system is perceiving. Okay, I've dealt with that before. I can deal with it again. And then I would deal with it. And then I would have some kind of a mini breakthrough or breakthrough where I would feel more comfortable with myself, or more self accepting, more calm, more able to connect. And so, whenever these triggers would show up, it would really suck. But there would also be an upside to it, because I'm like, when I work through this, I'm going to experience a next level of social ease that I didn't even know was possible. And that's happened many times. And so, in the way, 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 way beginning, when I started using tapping, um, the intensity began to come down. So instead of feeling 8 out of 10 anxiety, it dropped to 6 out of 10, and then 4 out of 10, and that progressively decreased. And whenever I would get triggered, it would leave more quickly, because I wouldn't beat myself up as much. I wouldn't judge myself for having the experience, because I started to have the understanding of what was going on. And then the frequency, instead of getting triggered every day, I was getting triggered weekly, and then a couple of times a month, and then, maybe 10 times a year, and then 5 times a year, and then even less, like 1 or 2 times a year, until, now it's hardly a thing, right? I mean, I can't remember the last time that I had a strong, well, actually, now that I'm saying that, I can remember the last time that I had a strong trigger, and it's many years ago. Okay, so that is what's possible, but you have to have persistence. Persistence is key. Now, persistence is difficult to have if you think, I will never get there. But when you understand that, hey, whenever you get triggered and your heart is racing, you have a lump in your throat and you feel anxious, or you blush or whatever, your system is reacting to the current day situation as if it's one that happened way back when, a traumatic one. And it's just alarming you. Careful, this situation is just like when you got bullied. And it gives you some of the feelings of that traumatic experience. Now, what you can do with tapping is you can heal that traumatic experience, process all of the stuck emotions, let go of the learning that you made at the time. So maybe when you got bullied, your mind made the learning, which formed a belief, something like, I'm an easy target. Well, when you let go of that properly, then you can start addressing the current day situation. And when you start addressing the current day situation with tapping as well, you can get to a place where the current day situation also feels safe. And when that feels safe, there's no fight, flight, freeze activation, because there's no threat. The fight, flight, freeze only gets activated when there's a perception of threat. So when you deal with that, you'll feel natural, calm, at ease, curious, open to connect, because that's your natural state. So in other words, you return to your natural state. Persist, 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 and when in doubt, persist some more. This is Seb from socialanxietysolutions.com. Check out my free 7 Secrets to Social Confidence mini course. Click the link below this video.